Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from Your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we'll be talking about a very hot topic of conversation, and that's the prevalence or perceived prevalence of smurfing as a problem in the Overwatch matchmaking system. Now this issue evokes some strong feelings amongst the community, and I'll do my best to express some unpopular opinions in a constructive way. I think the best place to start is to look at why people have issues with players using smurf accounts. A main culprit is that the community believes that smurfs create an environment where superior skilled players routinely use smurf accounts to play worse players deliberately, be that for selfish reasons like pub stomping, or to play heroes they don't know but want to learn, etc. The perceived result of this is that matches become artificially uneven, and that ruins people's fun who are genuinely at that lower rank just trying to play a normal game, as they will get completely stomped by the higher skill smurf user. Smurfs from that perspective have the potential to ruin the integrity of each rank and the matches played at each tier, and that's something that's very important to Blizzard. Now we've mentioned in previous videos over the last day that Big Daddy Jeff has said that this doesn't really happen, at least not in the long term. Smurfing, and I know this isn't what you want to hear, isn't really that big of an issue. For example, a few weeks ago, one of the pro Overwatch players created a smurf account and was streaming from it. We were able to watch his MMR internally and compare it against his main account. Within 15 games, the MMRs were equal. I know there is a very bad perception of smurfing, but the reality is, skilled players are moved rapidly out of lower skill situations. Now we know this is true, and we've lamented for a long time that a new account is much easier to place higher than a day one account. You can compare my main, which still hovers in mid-diamond, compared to my smurf, which is hilariously actually higher and in masters. Truly good players on lower ranked accounts are moved out of lower ranks very quickly, especially if that account has a shorter MMR sample size. As such, it's a misconception that you're always playing against a smurf Genji in diamond who completely wrecks you. All players get hot and cold, and the higher up you go, the skill curve starts to enter a diminishing returns area. For example, the difference between a masters McCree and a GM McCree is often not in how good they can play, but in how often they play at their peak. The evidence doesn't support the idea that smurfs are everywhere, at least not in the sense that there are skilled players playing carry DPS roles game after game and staying at that low rank. However, one real concern is that sometimes people on smurfs like to troll, or not swap to win a game because for them it's of no consequence. Now that we can understand. If there's a GM smurf on a Symmetra only account, it can almost guarantee a loss if they never swap when countered because they don't care. And that is genuinely not fair on the other players on their team who are trying to win. But to be fair, matchmaking is kind of a mess anyway at all levels. And that's not a defense of that mindset, it's one of my rage triggers myself. But it's also just a byproduct of having an individual rank in a team-based game. We once thought that the higher ranks were like the promised land. Once you got there, every team comp would be great, everyone would know how to group up and how to engage properly or manage ultimates effectively, you know, like the pros do. But alas, that's not true either. Another complaint is that people regard smurfs as a viable tool for boosting lower level players by a much better player to a higher rank. If that was true, your boy Eddie would be top 500 on his main, not the diamond scrub he is now, am I right? Jokes aside, we know people do this. But let's think about this. If IDDQD boosted me to top 500, the moment I played without him, that'd be rip. I'd fly back down so fast I wouldn't be able to catch my breath. If you can't hang at the upper levels, you can't hang, and the ranking system was even more punishing previously with its momentum-based SR rewards and losses. Now the ranks will supposedly feel more stable, but if you're actually a boosted player, you'll just find yourself falling back down to plat in a more stable fall. Less of a parachute jump, more of a slow descent down the world's longest staircase. If a GM DPS main can win games with his master support friend at GM level, doesn't the support guy deserve to be there? There's another reason people use smurfs a lot, and that's to play heroes that they're learning without endangering their main account's rank. I'm sure a lot of people would argue that that is exactly what quick play is for, and to a certain extent that is true. But as an actual test of your hero progress, it's not that constructive. Quick play doesn't play like ranked, as it's almost certain to have a large percent of its players within the game not really trying. The only way to test a hero is to play for real. Now I'm sure a lot of you would say, well you should just have to take the rough with the smooth and deal with the SR loss. But to say that is ignoring another fact. No player is truly represented by their rank. Because it's a rank that covers all bases, we're expected to believe that any person is exactly say their rank's level with any hero in their pool. Well that's just not true. People often rank up higher by getting good with just one hero or a very small pool. So that GM Ana is also supposed to play a GM standard Rhine should they pick him. It's obvious that that's not true. More difficult and complex answers to the ranking system might be preferential to everyone having smurfs, but as it stands that's just not the case. FREEDO has made the argument that if there was a team queue, you'd get a team rank and an individual one. We've also hypothesized being ranked by role. My tanks might be gold, but my supports might be masters. That's a joke by the way. My tanks are probably silver. Being ranked by role would also mean you'd queue as that role. There's issues there with flex players and other role swaps that are sometimes required to win games, but it is true that giving a player one rank for everything is a bit misleading. However, it would remove that learning a hero justification for using Smurf accounts, as it would be completely unnecessary. So why do we have Smurfs? The short answer is, we needed them to play with each other. It's true, Eddie is bad. Or at least the MMR system thinks my main should be firmly stuck in mid-diamond. Now, my main is a day 1 account. It has a lot of hours on Lucio and other supports from seasons 1 and 2. It was therefore subject to the lower rewards that supports were forced to live through earlier in the game's life cycle. When playing with Liam and FREEDO and the others we played with, I'd routinely gain less SR for a win through playing support. This wasn't out of choice either a lot of the time. Back then we used to try and force solid fundamentals onto a matchmaking environment, meaning a lot of the time we needed a Lucio. There were more roles to fill as well, and I had the worst tank, so I got stuck playing him. Trying to pick a decent team comp isn't always the best way to win more matchmaking games. We found that out the hard way. For the placement matches in Season 3, we placed as a 6, as at the time, that was the way we wanted to play the game. After the 10 matches, I was ranked at a level that meant nobody could play with me, because of the lower rewards and the lower MMR from previous seasons. In fact, very few of us could play together at all, so we needed Smurfs to be able to just queue with each other. For a lot of the following seasons, I could be found at Masters while leaving my main behind, as it just wasn't possible for me to use it and play with my friends. This still continues to this day. Liam plays on his second account, which is around 3,700, and my main flirts with both Platinum and Masters, depending on the Symmetra main ratio in our games. If he didn't have that account, we just wouldn't be able to play together with me using my main. And there's actually a real issue hidden in there. If when playing as a full team, your rank wasn't a barrier to queuing, like Counter-Strike for example, then that's what we would have done. The problem is you get one rank and that's it, regardless of context. Even if you made the full 6-man's team's SR the same SR as the highest ranked player on your team, therefore getting way harder matches, we'd still do that. Not wanting to play harder opponents isn't a factor for us, it's simply a practicality issue. There's also the enforcement issue. How can Blizzard actually enforce any ruling they make? If someone is boosted, do they punish the booster or the boostee? Do they punish both? Is it fair to punish someone for just wanting to play with their friends? I can get behind punishing people who charge people money to get to GM or something, as that's not good for anyone. They'll very quickly realise it was a waste as they fall back down rapidly. It's not as if it's cheap either. To have a Smurf, you have to buy a whole other copy of the game. It's not as simple as making a new account. For pro players, having a Smurf can be a lifesaver. If you're well known on your main, being able to play without everyone knowing who you are can be a huge relief. In conclusion then, the perception that people can Smurf long term at a much lower rank is apparently not even possible according to Blizzard. And if there were other answers to other problems like playing with friends, team queue, or you got different ranks for different roles, Smurfing wouldn't even be needed for the other reasons I've outlined. I do want to say though, if you've had games ruined at a lower rank because someone was on a Smurf, that sucks, it really does. But the evidence points to a different picture, that those players don't stick around long enough to have the kind of negative impact that a lot of the community thinks they do in the long term. If you liked the video, please don't forget to leave a rating. If you never want to miss one of our videos again, click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on our channel to join the notification squad. You'll be in good company. Please check out our Discord, where you can join one of the biggest Discord communities for Overwatch out there. If you want to see us tilt live for your enjoyment, please check out our Twitch channel, which will be linked in the description. Also, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter, it's where you can find updates for new videos and streams. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time.